Let's start with the mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Okay, Urdhvamulo Vakshakha Esho Shvatha Sanatanach Tad Eva Shukram Tad Brahma Tad Evamritamuchyate Tasmin Lokach Shritach Sarve Tadunatyeti Kashtana Etadvaitat. So Yama says, this is the eternal Ashvatha tree whose root is above, but its branches are downward. It is he that is called the Bright One and Brahman and immortality, and in him are all the worlds established. None goes beyond him. That is that. Interestingly, that in the Gita there is another passage on Ashvatha in chapter 15, where Krishna suggests to cut Ashvatha to the root and to get rid of it, because those the branches and the leaves are Vedas, Vedic hymns. They are leading in many directions and mislead you in a way, mislead you in the search everywhere. And it is kind of that world of Maya which we have to get rid of. In Katha Upanishad, it's not the case. The Ashvatha is the foundation of the spirit. It's the tree of life, if you will, in the Semitic tradition, yes, which covers and holds everything, heaven and earth together. So it looks very different from this point of view. Katha is more Vedic, Gita is more already post-Vedic, Advaitic in that sense. But Gita, we should not forget that Krishna is Kshatriya, the king, and he wants very fast realization, yes. Going through those hymns and infinite bits and pieces of knowledge is not his way. You have to find the self. That's the major thing. Here, this Ashvatha is identified with spirit. Shukram tad Brahma, tad eva amritam uchyate, and that is immortality. It's quite interesting in a way to compare these two. Yadidam kim cha jagat sarvam prane ejatini sritam tadbhayam mahadbhayam vajram udyatam ye etad viduch amritaste bhavanti. Yadidam kim cha jagat sarvam, whatever is the movement or the universe, prane ejatini sritam, it is released into prana, moves. So all the universe of motion moves in the prana, and from the prana also it proceeds. This is Sri Aurobindo's interesting. As from prana it proceeded. There is no such thing here, but it is said sarvam prane ejati nishritam. Everything is moving in the prana, cast into prana, as it were. A mighty terror is he, Mahad Bhayam. Yea, the thunderbolt uplifted, Vajram Udyatam, Vajram, the lightning ready to be used, as it were. Ye etat viduch, and those who know thus, amritach te bhavanti, they become immortals. Well, it's continuation of the same thing, but prana is here, which is holding everything within itself. By the way, this is a very ancient vision that prana was the fundamental Brahman. Yeah? First manifestation of Brahman is prana. And we can find it in Katha Upanishad, that prana is the major spiritual presence in manifestation. And there is even dispute there in Katha Upanishad between different faculties of consciousness. And everybody says that he is or she is the major one. Speech says that I am the major one, that the eye, the sight, the hearing, one by one. And then they decided, okay, let's do the contest. The one who leaves the body and damages the body most, he is the major one. So one by one they left. First he became numb, then he became deaf, then he became blind, and so on. And then when prana left, everybody agreed that the prana.
We needed prana.
Yeah. So, and this is the idea that prana is the offspring of mind and word, or heaven and earth. It's quite interesting. It's a creation of heaven and earth. It is something which appeared in between them. And the parents of prana are mind and the word, or heaven and earth. But, as Brihadaranyaka would say, prana itself is the child of these two, but also the parent of her parents. Because without prana, these would never become parents. Yeah, if there is no child, there are no parents. So parents are born by prana being kind of injected, and that gives you some idea why prana is the representative of the spirit. Yeah? And in Brahma Chatushpad, you can see that on one side manas, on the other side vak, on one side seeing, on the other hearing, chakshuh and shrotram. And these are four major, as Kaushitaki says, pillars of Brahma, or the feet of Brahman, by which he entered into manifestation as prana. So heaven and earth, or seeing and hearing, comprehensive and apprehensive cognition, are for him instrumental to enter into manifestation and to animate nature.
What's the relationship between how they're describing prana here and the Mahashakti?
Mahashakti is just from another kind of system of talking. Yeah? Of course, everything is Shakti here, because without Shakti, nothing could come into existence. Prana especially. Prana is the life force, which is very difficult to define. What is really life? Can you explain it to me or to yourself? What is really this life force? We can explain what is thought, what is body, what are cells, how it is happening, but what is that energy? What is energy actually? Nobody knows really. So that is the question to Shakti and Prana. But because of this strange combination of heaven and earth, which are needed to hold prana within the manifestation. And prana is the spirit. If you look at the scheme which I made several schemes once, how the egg was cracked and the prana appeared in between. And then prana is uniting heaven and earth. And then it goes farther. It unites this egg with the Supermind itself is a crack between this world and transcendental. So that crack from the transcendental goes into the prana. Prana is the mysterious. That's why we have even here in the torso that behind the heart center we have the psychic being. Why behind there? Yeah? Why not behind somewhere in the head or in the feet or somewhere else? In the center. Prana is in the center, and all the central force from the spirit enters into manifestation with the help of these heaven and earth, yeah? And holding it there. So in this case, everything is in prana, moving, and was cast into prana, everything. You remember my scheme? No, you don't remember from the presentation with crack and the upper ocean and the lower ocean, send everything through the navel center, through antariksha into this world. Yeah? All the forces come through the pranic presentation here into this manifestation. And the shell of heaven and earth is holding it. This is the vision of the Veda. I hope it is kind of obvious. It becomes obvious over time.
Mm.
It's more metaphysical and also psychological. Psychological in the sense that in order to go beyond the mind or beyond the physical, we need to go into pranic world. This is something which is not totally understood. When we think we have to go beyond, below the physical, we think through the physical we go below. No, we can't. You have to rise to pranic level. And that's why in the Veda they describe the hill, and that hill has an entry, and through that entry you can go into subconscious and inconscient, yeah, or into the superconscient. But you cannot go into the subconscious and inconscient through the physical. Physical is a full stop, as
Right.
the mind is also full ceiling. We have two ceilings, the shell. And the entry into the prana are from the infinite worlds, from above and from below. No, now I kind of justified my talking.
is is there a relationship then between the prana and Agni? It sounds like they're also very close.
Yes, definitely. When the
Yeah.
crack happened,
Yeah.
crack happened with a force inside, which is called Vayu or Vata, and Vata is two turbulence or two spirals which are connected in such a way that one foot is on heaven and other foot is on earth. So when it comes to heaven, it doesn't reach. When it comes from heaven to earth, doesn't reach, but it creates this tension. Yeah, this is prana. That's why we cannot describe it, because how to describe it? Only in this way, that it's a kind of field of energy which holds two polarities. They are needed, plus and minus. And that is three fires. Yeah? The fire, the quintessential presentation of energy on earth will be Agni. The essence of the energy in the antariksha is Vayu, that very Vayu which cracked. And the essential of the heaven is Surya. So we have Agni, Vayu, and Surya. These are three fires. And these three fires have to be united for the sacrifice. Once they are united, collected, as it were, into one fire, the sacrifice is achieved, realized. Then you have only one energy. You don't have the energy of the physical or energy of the mental or energy of the vital in between. That becomes one. You become composed, and that is what is called yukta, yeah? The one who is totally composed, where mind, vital, and body are working as one being, which is very rare. Hardly
Then,
anybody is composed.
then they, if that was it, when yukta occurs, then everything that's perceived or thought would be experienced directly as differentiations of the one. No?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Right.
Well, on that note, I ran a moment ago to get Krishna Prem's commentary on the 15th chapter of the Gita, and
Uh-huh.
he brings in both the Vedantic, this cut the attachment, and the Vedic. And he talks about how the Vedic is more comprehensive, and he says that when you cut the attachments, you actually get the vision of the integral whole of the tree rather than getting rid of it. You actually can see the whole thing. You can't, as long as you're in the little self, you can't see it. And he goes on to say, I thought of Vladimir here. He says, when you see this, you see that the sense powers are differentiations of the integral illuminating power of consciousness. That faculties of consciousness.
Right. Huh.
Anyway, yeah,
Yeah. Well, without faculties, without these, there is no way for the spirit, for Brahman to come in. So,
yeah,
so spirit cannot manifest without faculties. It's another in another language. So if there is no comprehensive and apprehensive cognition of seeing and hearing,
right,
the life force cannot manifest. So
right, beautiful.
it's according to Vedanta, yes. Later, Sankhya takes over and changes the paradigm a bit. It speaks about it in a different language, more in the mental structure.
Mm,
So, but the same story, the same. If we see that the same knowledge is given in different languages, we are free. Yeah, we are not bewildered anymore. We are not
right.
kind of arguing about nothing. So, which is usually the case. People are
Right,
arguing about the terms, or they jump on each other because somebody said another word. They're not listening to what is meant to be said, or what
right,
is wanted to be found. Yeah. So we are always kind of judging the performance.
right.
Uh, So Bhayat Asya Agnih Tapati, here it is coming, the Agni. From fear, Agni is burning. From fear of him, the Agni is burning. Bhayat Tapati Surya, from fear of him, the Surya is burning. So Agni and Surya, Bhayat Indrasya Vayusya, here is Vayu, the third fire. From the fear, Indra and Vayu, Mrityur Dhahavati Panchamah, and Mrityu runs the fifth. Interesting. This is a mysterious statement because Bhayam, the fear, has to be interpreted deeply spiritually rather than even only psychologically or philosophically. So we spoke on fear quite a lot before in the Upanishads, what fear is, yes. And you remember the creation, how it is described in Shatapatha Brahmana, where Atman was alone and then he became afraid. Yeah. So that how he can be afraid? I am alone. I alone am. So what should I be? So, and that's Shatapatha Brahmana says that's why the one who is alone is always afraid. And then he thought, whom am I afraid of if I alone am? And fear vanished. And Shatapatha Brahmana immediately says, yes, fear always comes from another. And
Right,
this is something interesting because here we get the meaning of what is Bhayam. Bhayam is shrinking back to oneself, not recognizing oneself there. Yeah. So you fall back to yourself because you are not there. If it is not you, you fall back to yourself. So it is this kind of withdrawing your own presence. And that shrinking creates that phenomena which we call fear. And why he was shrinking, it's quite interesting that because he looked around, he didn't find anybody but himself. You see, he looked around and didn't find anyone but himself, and then he became afraid. So anticipating otherness of self, already created attention.
Right.
Amazing, yeah, if you think of it. And
Yeah.
then he thought, oh, if I alone am everywhere, me, whom am I afraid of? So, and then, yes, it came to him that fear comes from another.
Mm.
And after that, he wanted another. He was not happy anymore. He wanted another. So this is the original kind of splash or sort of shobha, if you will, to have another in him. So if you think of fear in that way, then this verse is very interesting. So from fear of him of whom Agni burns, shrinking from whom the Agni burns, and Surya burns, and Vayu and burns, and Indra, and Mrityu, and death is also running the fifth. From this recognition of the other, there is a constant movement forward, because the otherness of self and the identity of the one being makes this becoming possible.
Vladimir, I see the word for Indra and Vayu there. What's the word in Sanskrit for death? I don't see, it's not Yama.
Mrityu.
Mrityur?
Yeah, Mrityu is death, literally.
Okay.
Yama is not death, in the Vedas, or at least in the Vedic language. Yama is later, yes, in Mahabharata, it will be a lord of death. And also here he is Yama. Yama is speaking to him. So, but Yama, it's a weird thing with Yama, because Yama, Sri Aurobindo never calls Yama in Savitri Yama. Yeah? The Lord of Death is not Yama in Savitri. Is it not interesting? Yeah, he calls everyone. Satyavan, Yumatsena, Shvapati, Savitri, everyone has a name except Yama. And there is a reason for it, because Yama was the first man who died. It is a group soul which came as a human formation, group formation, and he was first who found the way back to the psychic world, to the origin from which this group came. So he is in charge of that origin, of psychic origin from which we came, for us to reincarnate, to travel. When he comes, he usually sends his Sarameya dogs, these four-eyed dogs, which are looking in all directions, who are on both sides, protect the soul when soul travels from this state through the field of death, because there is that gap, that antariksha through which you can fall into the inconscient or elsewhere and disappear. So they protect you on the path to the origin, to the psychic origin, to psychic world. So he always sends somebody to protect the soul. Sometimes he comes himself, like in the case of Satyavan. Savitri asks him, why did you come? Usually you send your helpers, messengers, and now you came yourself. He said, he is too dear to me. I cannot entrust this transition to anyone. So he wants to take the soul of Satyavan himself, because soul of Satyavan is soul of humanity in a way. So he is actually a savior of the soul rather than killer of the body. Wow. So he saves the transition to the upper world for the soul to rest, to take another kind of, what do you call it, plan for the embodiment in the next reincarnation. And after that rest, the soul comes back to earth. But to come back to earth, he is not in charge of. There is another figure in the Veda. It is Yami, his twin sister. Yama and Yami, who was left on earth. He went to heaven and she was left on earth. They split this couple of this kind of twin brother and sister, and she is in charge of the soul reaching to the destination it chose to reach. And that what mother describes as blinking, or that the light is not blinking, but what do you call it? She says when the soul is ready to embody, it sees the light is shining, but like shining, giving a sign, or like,
right.
yeah. There is another word for it. It doesn't come to me. So this, when the soul sees the light, it knows that it matches its intention. But who matches that intention? Yami on the other side. Yami knows exactly what you need, because Yama and Yami are the group soul twins.
That's lovely. Is there any relationship between those four-eyed dogs and the bridge that Mother built? They seem to
Right.
have the same function.
Right. She built the bridge to make it safe, that you don't need to, Yama doesn't have to work too hard. Mother will take care of the soul's transition. I think so. Yeah. Because it's a lot of work. And by the way, many people feel threatened by this passage. There is a very, very dangerous passage first, when we enter through leaving the body. Mother speaks about this very dangerous passage. There is one distance which can be crossed only with the name of God on the lips. Otherwise there is no security there. There are all kind of creatures and powers try to rob you of your energy and so on.
Right.
They attack all this kind of. By the way, I had some experience of this with my mother. When my mother died, she came to me after 3 days or something. 3 days, yes, on the third day, in the dream, and she said, "Vladimir, I have to go to another shore, and this field, dark field, is full of kind of wild animals." And so I made for her the shoes, wooden shoes, like Brahmins are wearing, these with chappals. I said, you have to wear these shoes because to step on that soil, it's poisonous and you will be drawn to it. And second, I didn't need shoes for some reason, most probably because I was in the body still. So because body is a protector in a way, it's shoes, those very shoes. And I took her hand and we went through the field.
Oh, how beautiful.
And I saw this growling from the sides everywhere, kind of, but they were afraid to attack for some reason. So we went through the field to another shore, and there I saw all kind of different beings, people, previous uncles and aunties who died, really, and some unknown faces, but looked familiar, like as if I knew them from within, not from without. I would not know who they are, but they were familiar. And then we said goodbye and she left to that shore.
It's beautiful in what you said before, you supported her in being yukta to a deeper, higher reality. It struck me as you're talking about this verse that as long as we take ourselves to be the separate body, we're going to have fear in this passage. But when we're truly yukta, we recognize yama, yami, we recognize death as another manifestation of the divine.
Yeah. I was in the dream, I was not even thinking. It was so natural to do everything. It was like, well, of course, how else? Can't be otherwise. So I didn't really analyze the situation. It was But it was so vivid that I know that it wasn't a dream or some kind.
Right.
And I still remember the details of everything,
Yeah.
of the sandals, of the growling, of those faces. They're still imprinted somewhere. So,
Yeah. Very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so this transition is that passage. There is one field, or sometimes people cross through the tunnel or through the river. Many people go through the river. These are symbols of crossing to another shore. And for that, they have even a particular verb in Sanskrit, tarati. Tarati means crossing. And it is used for saving. So you have to cross from one shore to another. Right. And from here, avatar. Avatar is crossing down.
Hmm.
Okay. Iha ched ashakat bodhum praksharirasya visrasa tatah sargeshu lokeshu sharira tvaya kalpate. And this is kind of also puzzling. And here, if you can think or realize, let us say, apprehend, bodhum, become aware before about the divine, before or realize the divine, let us say, before the body is cast away. So in the body, if you can realize this, tatach sargeshu lokeshu sharirattvaya kalpate, then in all the worlds you are fitting for the embodiment. Literally, Sri Aurobindo translates in his way. If in this world of man, and before thy body fall from thee, you were able to apprehend it, then thou availst for embodiment in the worlds that he creates. He, capital. There is something interesting here. If we can become free, so to say, muktas, or yuktas, let us say, before the body dissolves, we get the right for shariratvaya kalpati. We get the right for the embodiment in the body. And why this shariratvaya kalpate? He fits for the embodiment. And there's something implied here. So that freedom is actually the level of fitting for the embodiment, for free choice of embodiment. I think this is implied. But you are not fitting for being free from the body when you're mukta. Yeah, you are fitting for the embodiment, just the opposite way.
Right.
So is it saying that you're able to make a more conscious choice about how and when and where to embody?
I think so. You can choose what to do, what body to build, what task to have, because the muktas, when they come down, they are like avatars. Yes, they have nothing to achieve in the terms of evolution for themselves, but they choose that as the work for the divine. Yes, they bring some higher knowledge presence and spread it and work in the nature and try to transform everything around themselves and people and help people and so on. So like rishis who brought this higher knowledge, or Vivekananda, mother says, he was the avatar, he was the involutionary being. That means he doesn't have to evolve for himself, but he has to bring something from the higher realm to this atmosphere.
Right.
So here's something of the kind. And then yatha darshe, even more mysterious. Yatha darshe yathatmani tathatmani yatha svapne tatha pitriloke yatha apsu pariva dadrishe Tatha Gandharva Loke, Chaya Tapayoh Eva Brahma Loke. So this is related to this verse, to know him or to discover the divine within oneself, as literally, as in the mirror, thus in the self. So Sri Aurobindo translates, in the self one sees God as in a mirror. That you remember when some disciple of Vivekananda asked him, did you see the divine? Tell me. And he said, I saw him better than I see you.
Right. Right.
And then that person disappeared somewhere. And later he was found in the Himalayas, and he was already kind of sadhu or something. He needed a proof. Yeah? Just
Right.
give me a proof. One
Right.
second. There's something around there once. Radhe brought some eggs for us, breakfast. We will have breakfast. She forgot that I have a class. So, Yatha Darshe Tathatmani, as in the mirror, so in oneself, in the self. Yatha Svapne, as in the dream, interesting. Tatha Pitriloke, thus in the world of Pitris. Yatha Apsu, as in the waters. Can you see seeing in the waters when you open eyes in the underground, underwater? Pariva Dadrishe Tatha Gandharva Loke, thus in the world of Gandharvas. And then Chaya Tapayoh Eva Brahma Loke. And in the world of the spirit, in the world of Brahman, it is as if in the light and shade of light. There is most probably this is something of the about experience, how we see the divine in different worlds.
What is the shade? What is in the heaven and the spirit? What is the shade? Is that the differentiation?
Chaya, yes, is usually a shade, something which is like a projection. It's not only a shade, but also a projection. So maybe that will help. Tapas is the burning force or light, and the projection of that light also.
So is it form?
Or maybe grades of light, if you will.
Okay.
Hues of light.
Light and shade. Yeah.
So when we move from the brightest light to the darkest darkness, all the grades, of hues.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting topic because everything is formed in the supermind, and in the supermind there is no darkness, as it were.
Right.
There is no night, but the night comes close to the supermind, tries to pervade it. Once it does it, we have an overmental creation, the overmental supermind first. When the ray of light leaves the body of the sun, in that moment when it departs into the space of darkness, yes, the first outburst of light into the darkness. So the darkness pervades the body of the sun, as it were, and the rays appear. So these hues, this manifestation of the rays of light is determined by the overmind. And it is somehow included into Brahmaloka. This is what I wanted to say.
is Brahmaloka here, the heaven of the spirit? Is that the Mahat, the supermind?
I think it is something which is inclusive of supermind and overmind and this world and transcendental world.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
So to say, you see both, let us say, the transcendental and this world, yeah?
Right.
Because Brahman is an interesting concept in the Upanishads. It is the spirit which is present everywhere, yes, in the same form. In the transcendental world and this world, the same Brahman.
Mm.
All right. And then, Indriyanam prithak bhavam udaya astam ayo. Udayastamayo chayat. Such an interesting combination. Udaya astam ayo chayat. These are combined words. Prithak utpadyamananam matvadhiro nashochati. Indriyanam prithak bhavam. And separate nature of indriyas. Udayah astam ayav chayat, which are coming, rising and falling back, setting down, rising and setting. The bhava of indriyas. Prithak utpadyamananam, separately or separateness of them appearing, thinking of, having thought of, dhirach nashochati, the wise man, the wise is not, puts away, puts from him pain and sorrow, is not suffering, literally. The calm soul, having comprehended the separateness of the senses and the rising of them and their setting and their separate emergence, this is about our faculties, puts from him pain and sorrow. Once we see what these faculties do, yeah, together and separately, and what they really mean, and how the consciousness is using all of them to manifest the worlds, we have no more problems with ourselves and others. There was a way to liberation through the faculties. Upanishads represent that one. And at least other Upanishads like Prashna, Kena, and so on. Indriyebhyah param manah. Beyond Indriyas there is manas. Manasach sattvam uttamam. Beyond the mind there is sattvam, the being or sattva guna. Sattvat adhi mahan atma. Beyond sattva there is a great self. Mahato avyaktam uttamam. And beyond the great self there is avyakta, the unmanifest. Avyaktat to parach purushach, and beyond avyakta there is a higher purusha, vyapako, all-pervading, alingach, without limbs, evacha. Yam jnatva, knowing whom, muchyate jantuch, the creature who is born here is freed. Amritatvam chagachati, and goes for immortality, or reaches to immortality. Nasam drishe tishtati rupamasya, his form is not visible to the eye. Nachakshusha pashyati kaschanainam, nobody sees him with the eye or with the vision. Harida manisha manasa abhikliptach. He is manageable or reachable, let us say, by the heart and the power of the mind, and the mind with the power of the mind. Interesting. Sri Aurobindo translates here unexpected, but it's his early translations, but interesting because it gives me a hint how he understands Manisha. But to the heart and the mind and the super mind He is manifest. It is one of his first usages of supermind.
Yeah.
You see, he's
Manisha?
writing it differently. Yeah.
Manisha?
He said-
Yeah, Manisha.
Yes. And Manisha is so difficult to translate. People translate it as wisdom and so on. But if we look at it closer, we could see this is the power which is controlling the mind.
Oh.
So what it could be, it's some kind of superior power controlling the mind. Yeah?
Isha.
Yes, this from root ish, to seek, to want, to will, and also it could be from kindred root id, to possess.
Oh.
So this is a very unclear word from the etymological point of view, yes. So we have to kind of guess. So it is manageable by the heart and by the superior will in the mind. Ya etad viduch, ye etad viduch, and those who know this, amritachte bhavanti, they become immortal. Yada panchavatishtante jnanani manasa saha buddhischa na vicheshtate tam ahuch paramam gatim. That they call the highest goal, when the five jnanendriyas together with manas and buddhi are not anymore working, or how to say, Shubhendra translates, ceases from its workings. Cheshta is the attempt, when we try, where they do not try. When they stop trying, all of these indriyas, manas, and buddhi, that
Right.
they call the highest path.
Right.
Interesting. Very closer to our understanding. Tam yogam, that path they call yoga manyante, they consider to be yoga. Sthiram, steady. Indriya dharanam, holding all the faculties of consciousness, all the indriyas, supporting or fixing all the indriyas. Apramattah, careful or not careless, let us say. Tada bhavati, he then becomes yoga, he prabhavapyayo. Because yoga is indeed the beginning and the end of all things. Yoga is the birth of things and their ending. And Sri Aurobindo gives a note here, interesting. Shankara interprets as yoga has a beginning, birth, so has it an ending. But this is not what the Shruti says. It's not the yoga has the beginning and the end, but yoga is the birth of things and the ending of things. Everything is within yoga. So everything is united, everything is one, only we don't know it. Naiva vacha namanasa praptum shakyo na chakshusha. It is not reached neither by the word, by the mind, cannot be reached by the eye, sight. Asti iti bruvatach na anyatra katham tat upalabhyate. Asti iti. This is interesting for your, remember to be. Unless one says he is,
Right.
how can one become sensible of him?
That reminds me when you talked about the other shore, the shore earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In early Buddhism, I'd say we have to leave this to get to the other shore. But in later, the Tantric Buddhism says, when you think you've gone to the other shore, you discover the other shore is here. What is here is, what is there is here. What is not here is nowhere. And so this he is, it's only when we recognize God everywhere and everything that we find the other shore, which is here.
Yeah. But I think this is already higher realization. Yeah, it's the next step. First, you discover that shore, and then you discover that that shore is actually here. Also,
Yes.
so you got one more view, yes, a superior view on both. You see both. Mhm. And then it continues in the same manner. Astiti eva upalabdhavyah tattva bhavana chobhayoho astiti eva upalabdhasya tattva bhavah prasidati. Interesting. One must apprehend God in the concept he is, and also in his essential. But when he has grasped him as the is, then the essential of God dawns upon a man. So this what you said, that there is no other shore and there is no this, there is one is. And once that is understood, then tattvas, the quintessential qualities of the reality start coming to you in the right order.
Right.
But this is amazing. It's not neti in this case. It's is.
Right. E.T.
Iti, yes. Right. That's just a very good slogan for your remember to be.
You must know Ramakrishna's story. He says you go to the top of the house saying neti neti. When you get to the top, you go iti iti. It all is. So you see
Right.
it's those two phases.
Right. Okay. I'm close. No, I'm not. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can stop here. It's a good place to stop with.
Wonderful.
Is, yes. One has
Yeah.
to. When one grasped him as the is.
Yes. The is.
Remember the is. Yeah.
Right. That's it. Our new slogan.
Yeah, you sent this link to the to this kind of site where you can create the blogging, and I just tried it and registered, and
Yeah.
it worked.
You look good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one can start putting blogs and develop, and one can immediately. I did this for LinkedIn and also for Facebook. Immediately it can be transported wherever you want. And
Oh,
already people are coming from LinkedIn with their remarks on Savage. Doesn't matter. It generates the discussion. Yeah?
right. It's good. Thank you. You
That's
have to
what we
show me how
want.
you, when we come visit, you'll show me how you did it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, enjoy your eggs.
Yeah.
Right.
Say hi to Rade.
Yes, I will. Yes. Okay. So see you then. Yeah. All the
Yes.
best.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.